Crescent Valley was the kind of town you only see on postcards. Quiet streets lined with oak trees, a white clock tower that chimed every hour, and neighbors who waved as they passed. To outsiders, it was picture perfect, the kind of place where nothing bad ever seemed to happen. But beneath that peaceful surface, darkness had been waiting for years to be uncovered. And it all began with the death of Sheriff Hal Jenkins, a man everyone in Crescent Valley believed they knew. For more than 20 years, Sheriff Jenkins was the beating heart of this small community. He wasn't just the law, he was family to nearly everyone who lived there. He attended every church picnic, every Friday night football game, and every funeral. He helped raise money for the fire department, and when people needed someone to listen, they came to Hal. He was respected, trusted, and loved. Which is why the town of Crescent Valley was shaken to its core on the morning of April 16th, when the news broke that Sheriff Jenkins had been found dead in his office. The first report that came out was short and shocking. The sheriff had died from a single gunshot wound to the head. The weapon used was his own service pistol. The official statement from the department said it appeared to be suicide. But in Crescent Valley, that explanation didn't sit right with anyone. People whispered in church pews, in grocery store aisles, and over coffee at the local diner. Everyone had the same question: why would Hal Jenkins, the man who had dedicated his life to protecting this town, end it all without a word? The case might have been closed as a suicide if not for a few details that didn't add up. When deputies arrived at the scene that morning, they found the sheriff slumped forward at his desk. His gun lay to his right, but there were no fingerprints on it, not even his own. The security cameras inside the station, cameras that were always running, had been offline for more than 12 hours due to what was described as a maintenance error. And in the drawer of his desk, they found something else. A torn piece of paper with 4 haunting words scrawled in black ink. "They know what you did." The handwriting didn't match the sheriff's. The coroner's office moved fast. Within 48 hours, they released the report and confirmed suicide. Case closed. But to those who knew Hal best, it wasn't over. His sister, Ellen, was the first to speak publicly. She told reporters that her brother had been acting strange in the weeks before his death, restless, distracted, and unusually private. He had even stopped attending Sunday service, something he hadn't missed in 20 years. Hal wasn't depressed, she said through tears. He was scared. That fear, it seemed, had a reason. Within days of the funeral, the state dispatched Detective Laura Briggs to Crescent Valley to assist with the case. Briggs was known for solving complex small-town mysteries, and she wasn't the type to believe in coincidences. From the moment she walked into the sheriff's office, she knew something was wrong. The desk was spotless. Too spotless. There were no signs of struggle, no spilled coffee, no files left open, nothing that suggested a man who had been working late the night before. She started digging through his computer records. That's when she found a deleted folder. The folder was named Counsel Case. AT specialists were able to recover fragments of its contents. What they found pointed towards something much bigger than anyone expected. The folder contained internal emails, financial reports, and handwritten notes about missing funds from a community development project led by the Crescent Valley Town Council. The sheriff had apparently been investigating possible embezzlement, not from some outsider, but from the very people running the town. The deeper Detective Briggs dug, the murkier things became. Her investigation revealed that just weeks before his death, Sheriff Jenkins had confided to a close friend that he'd uncovered something that could tear the town apart. He didn't say what it was, only that it involved powerful people and dirty money. And then, one by one, the suspects began to surface. The first was Deputy Rick Marlowe, a man who had worked beside Jenkins for more than a decade. Marlowe was loyal, but lately, his loyalty had turned bitter. He had been passed over for promotion several times, and Jenkins was the one who always signed the recommendation letters. Some say Rick had started to resent him for it. Others said the two men had argued in the days before the sheriff's death. Then there was Thomas Greer, a local businessman whose name appeared in several of the sheriff's notes. Greer had recently won a contract to build new housing on county-owned land, a project Jenkins had been investigating for fraud. Rumor had it that Greer was being protected by members of the town council. But perhaps the most unexpected person tied to the case was Evelyn Marks, a retired journalist who once wrote for the Crescent Valley Gazette. Years earlier, she and the sheriff had shared a quiet affair that ended abruptly when she left town. She returned 6 months before Jenkins' death and had been seen with him on several occasions. Some said they were just friends. Others weren't so sure. According to her later statement, Hal had reached out to her shortly before he died. He told her he was working on something that could destroy careers and reputations. He wanted her to help him document it. She said he sounded anxious, but determined. He said truth mattered more than anything, she told investigators. Even if it cost him everything. Those words would soon take on a chilling meaning. As Briggs followed the trail of corruption, she uncovered a pattern, a network of backroom deals between local politicians, businessmen, and law enforcement. Crescent Valley's clean image had been carefully constructed, and anyone who threatened it was silenced. But there was one detail that tied everything together, a discovery hidden in a dusty file in the sheriff's archives. It was a case from 1997, the year Hal Jenkins became sheriff. A missing person report for a 19-year-old named Jacob Red. The file showed that Red was last seen near Miller's Quarry, just outside town. The case had been closed after a few weeks with no leads. The officer who signed the closure order was Sheriff Jenkins himself. When Detective Briggs looked deeper, she found evidence that the case had been intentionally buried. The missing boy wasn't just a random teenager, he was the son of a prominent town councilman, a man named Paul Red, who still held office. Old rumors resurfaced. Some claimed the boy had gotten into an accident after a night of drinking and that the sheriff had helped cover it up to protect his father's career. Others believed something even darker, that the boy had witnessed a crime involving one of the council members and was silenced. Whatever the truth was, it was clear that someone had recently reminded Sheriff Jenkins of that long-forgotten case. Detective Briggs began to suspect that his death was not about money or blackmail. It was about history and guilt. Emails recovered from the sheriff's account revealed that he had been preparing to hand over a flash drive to state investigators. That drive contained secret recordings of conversations with council members discussing illegal land deals and financial kickbacks. He planned to send the evidence the night he died. But the email never went through. The flash drive was missing. A week later, it turned up, hidden behind a false panel in the sheriff's desk. When investigators played the files, they heard the voices of two council members, one of them Paul Red, discussing how to keep certain old mistakes buried. There was also mention of a payment to a man in uniform to make a problem go away. Hal Jenkins had finally decided to come clean. But someone found out before he could. Detective Briggs concluded that the sheriff's death was likely staged to look like a suicide. There were no signs of forced entry, suggesting his killer was someone he trusted, someone who had easy access to the station. The state reopened the case, but without definitive proof of murder, no one was ever charged. Deputy Marlowe resigned quietly. Thomas Greer's company lost its contracts, but he was never indicted. And the council members continued to serve, denying all allegations. The truth about Sheriff Jenkins' death remains officially unresolved. At his funeral, hundreds gathered under a gray sky to say goodbye. His coffin was draped in the American flag. The town's motto, engraved on his badge, gleamed in the afternoon light, honor above all. But to those who knew what really happened, or thought they did, the words felt hollow. Detective Briggs left Crescent Valley a month later, her report sealed. In her final note, she wrote, "The sheriff's last act may not have been despair. It may have been protection." He carried the burden of this town's sins for too long. And when it came time to expose them, he knew what it would cost. To this day, people in Crescent Valley still debate whether Sheriff Hal Jenkins was murdered, or if he took his own life out of guilt and fear. Some call him a hero who tried to make things right. Others believe he was part of the corruption he sought to expose. But one thing is certain, after his death, Crescent Valley was never the same. The smiles faded. The trust broke. And the town that once prided itself on honor now lived under the shadow of a secret it could never erase. The story of Sheriff Hal Jenkins is more than just a mystery. It's a reminder that even in the most peaceful places, darkness hides behind familiar faces. And sometimes, the people we trust the most are the ones who keep the deepest secrets. This is the story of the death of Sheriff Hal Jenkins, a story of power, loyalty, and the high price of truth in small-town America.